here today. I'm Senator Elijah Reichlin-Melnick, here to talk this morning with so many of our partners in government and law enforcement about some important new legislation that's being introduced in Albany that will help start to stem the tide of gun violence in our communities. Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge the folks who are here, some of whom we'll be hearing from in just a moment. My partner in Albany, Assemblywoman Sandy Galef, Sheriff Lou Falco, District Attorney Tom Walsh, Chief Dan Wilson from South Nyack PD, who is also head of the Rockland County Chiefs Association, Lieutenants Bosworth and Snars from the Spring Valley Police Department, Chief Ed Finn with Stony Point Police Department, Pete Walker, Chief with the Rockland District Attorney, and Chief Barbera, Chief with the Sheriff's Department. So let's just talk a little bit about why we're all here. And that is because the United States is suffering through an incredibly steep rise in gun violence. Shootings and gun homicides are up significantly compared to just a few years ago. In the first 5 months of 2021, more than 8,000 Americans have lost their lives to gun violence. That is an average of more than 54 people every single day of the year. And this nationwide rise in gun crime has not spared our state. Over the past year and a half, homicides around New York and shootings have risen substantially, and though overall violent crime is still well below where it was in the early 90s, we cannot stand by at this concerning rise in crime that is overtaking our state as more and more people are getting shot. And it has touched our communities as well, with several people in Rockland just this year shot and killed. And so that's why over the last several months I've reached out to my partners in law enforcement throughout the district and met with many of these leaders behind us to better understand what their needs are and any obstacles that they are facing in fighting back against the gun violence that is affecting our communities. So from these conversations, it became clear of a couple of things. And one of them is that law enforcement needs another tool for the toolbox to address this rise in gun crime, the majority of which is committed with illegally acquired guns. It was clear judges needed more discretion to set bail for people charged using illegal guns. And many individuals charged with the sale, use, or possession of illegal guns are involved in gangs or criminal enterprises and require them to be released pending trial and pose further risks to the community. So that's why I introduced this bill with Assemblywoman Sandy Galef. So I do want to just be clear about a couple of things. The criminal justice reforms of 2019 did bring needed change to our system, and they addressed some long-standing racial inequalities that were out there. They were needed. This bill does not reverse and it does not overturn bail reform. But we have to acknowledge a couple of things. Gun violence takes an especially tragic toll on communities of color. In New York City, for instance, more than 90% of homicide victims in most recent years have been Black or Hispanic. And so when we ensure that the criminal justice system continues to protect communities from gun violence, that is our imperative. So this bill is a little bit technical, so I just want to take a second to address what the bill does and what it does not do. This bill adds to the list of bail-eligible crimes any crime under Section 265 of the Penal Law involving the illegal possession, use, or sale of guns. So this could include criminal possession of a firearm, it could include criminal sale of a firearm to a minor, and many other crimes like that, which gangs and criminal enterprises are particularly involved in. Under this bill, judges would have their discretion to either release individuals charged with these crimes on their own recognizance or with non-monetary conditions, to set cash bail, or if the individual has been charged with felony possession, use, or sale of a gun, a judge could order the defendant held pending trial. This is the same discretion that judges currently have for many other violent felony offenses. If a defendant who has been charged with a felony has been released on their own recognizance, released with non-monetary conditions, or is out on bail pending a trial, their conditional bail or release can be revoked if a judge finds reasonable cause to believe that they have committed any crime involving the illegal possession, sale, or use of a gun. The defendant can then be held for up to 72 hours pending a hearing on whether to fully revoke their bail or release. What this bill will do is ensure that the trained law enforcement personnel and professionals who are here with us today and all over our district and judges will have the discretion that they need to keep those people with access to illegal guns from terrorizing their communities and possibly harming or killing innocent people in Rockland, Westchester, and around New York State. I am very grateful to Assemblywoman Galef for introducing it in the Assembly and to our partners in law enforcement for your support. Thank you. And with that, I would like to ask Assemblywoman Galef to say a few words.
Thank you, Elijah. Well, you outlined what the bill is all about. I just want to let you know that in the Assembly, we seem to be very slow at getting bill numbers, but there will be a bill number in the Assembly, hopefully very soon. So just know that we have a good partnership going. And you know, I almost feel like every day when I wake up, there's something that has happened the day before, the night before. Another activity of gun violence. I think I heard yesterday they were maybe in New York City, 16 examples of gun violence. It just is so much a part of our life, and we don't want to have it as a part of our life. And it's hard to, we were talking before, why do people, you know, use their guns the way they do? Is it to resolve a dispute? I thought, you know, there were other ways to resolve a dispute. Is it just shooting up into the air and people are impacted by that? And you know, somebody just shooting innocent people. So we have so many things that are going on that we need to correct. And you know, I too believe that we did a good job with bail reform. It was really about people that had money that could pay their bail and get out of jail, and the people that didn't have money couldn't pay their bail and get out of jail. So, you know, that was about equity. But we have taken the bill that we passed in 2019, and we have amended it. And this is a proposal for another amendment to that bill, which I think is a good one. And giving the judges discretion, I think, is also very much a part of this, and it's important to be able to do that because every case is a little bit different. So our goal is basically to save lives, have a safer New York, get guns off the street, and stop the violence both in our businesses, in our communities, in our places of worship, and our homes. There's a lot to do, and I believe that this legislation will go a long way to correcting the problem that we have today in our state and in our nation. But this bill is about our state. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As everybody knows, first of all, I'd like to thank the Senator and the Assemblywoman for sponsoring this legislation. I like to say it's like long overdue. In 2019, bail reform was passed without any conversation with the chiefs of police, the sheriffs across the state, or the district attorneys. Back in 2020, they went back to the legislature and they did make some amendments after hearing our outcries and us putting forth the statistics. And then we find ourselves fast forward today to 2021 with the gun violence, not only in New York State, not only in Rockland County, but across the United States. And we took it upon ourselves, when I say we, myself, the chiefs of police of Rockland County, the district attorney, to start doing some analytical work, some statistics. If you look to my right, your left, you'll see those are all the incidents of gun violence in Rockland County from January of 2020 through right now, active time, 2021. And that leads itself to 39 cases involving guns in Rockland County. That aside, there'll be a new map that'll be produced within the next week of all the incidents of guns that we recovered, arrests that were made by either the sheriff's office, the police agencies in Rockland County, the New York State Police, the Rockland County Narcotics Task Force, which comes to sum in total from 2020 through today of another 61 arrests of guns that we've taken off the streets of Rockland County. So when you combine those two numbers, you can see the uptick here in Rockland County. I'm sure if you did a survey yourselves to other counties in the lower Hudson Valley and throughout the state, you would see similar inclines from 2020 through today, 2021. And this legislation and this discretion for judges is much needed and much overdue. So I stand here today talking on behalf of myself and my colleagues to say, please, members of the Assembly, members of the legislature, our new governor, please take into account all the facts and figures that we're going to produce for you to give them their legitimacy as to why we need this legislation. And please pass it favorably early in the session. Thank you, and at this time I'd like to introduce our District Attorney, Thomas Walsh.
Good morning. First, I'd like to express my personal thanks and gratitude in that on behalf of the people of Rockland County to our state senator and assembly member of the assembly for starting this initiative. I've spent close to 40 years in law enforcement in Rockland County as a judge in the last 18 months or so as a district attorney. So I think I can bring a unique perspective to this issue. We have an uptick, as pointed out by the sheriff, in violent crime, use, possession of guns, and law enforcement need an additional tool. And by changing certain aspects of our bail law in New York State through this initiative, we will see much needed change. This change will give discretion to your local magistrate, your local judge, to balance the interests of the community against the rights of the defendant. As was pointed out, it will still give the judge the ability, when appropriate, to set bail or not bail. But it's an additional tool. It's another arrow in the quiver of law enforcement and the courts to ensure that the people of Rockland County and this state are protected from this plague of gun violence. It's a shocking number of gun possessions and use of guns that was pointed out by Sheriff Falco, who should be thanked for his work, and as well as the other chiefs and members of law enforcement in protecting the people of Rockland County. They work tirelessly every day, and they need the support of appropriate legislation to ensure that they can do their jobs better and the people are protected. And I believe that we also should thank the members of the New York State Assembly and the State Senate for being responsive to the needs of law enforcement and the people of this state when they review their legislation to see how it can be improved, modified, and made better for all. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Wilson, Police Chief of the South Nyack Police Department and President of the Police Chiefs Association of Rockland County. I want to thank Senator Reichlin-Melnick and Assemblywoman Galef for introducing this legislation and organizing this press conference. Additional thanks to Sheriff Falco and Rockland District Attorney Walsh for their dedication and words spoken today. A primary goal and function of the criminal justice system is to provide our constituents with public safety. We need a system that provides protection for all. The bail reform legislation that was passed in 2019 was too much, way too fast. Reform must be responsible and strategic if it is to be successful. It is painful to look into the eyes of victims and tell them a suspect will be released with no opportunity for remand. This includes victims of personal and intimate crimes, as well as the business owner that will suffer a financial loss from a criminal incident. We need to expand the list of crimes a judge can remand a suspect. Judges can examine the particulars of an incident and articulate their decision. Give back judges the authority and ability to protect our citizens. The people of New York deserve and demand a system that gives them the comfort and confidence to feel safe. This legislation is a good start, but is not a finish line. God bless the people of New York, and God bless the United States. Thank you.